We are now broadcasting live.
Yo, did you just know?
Right, you know what you got to do, right? Staying up straight, you're leaning over. You know what you got to do. Start, then you reach for her hand, okay?
Let me get ready.
We got to start.
Oh,
We about to start.
my legs are hurting.
Oh, bro, come on, bro. You just got it. No, the lady gonna tell us.
My legs are hurting, but they're solid as rocks.
Can you get some of the pictures out there?
Mr. Thomas, I said my legs hurt, but my legs are full of rocks. So they don't hurt too bad. That's clean. Dog, chill. You got Jordan.
Bye, everybody.
Wondering if you want me to make any announcement to the Spanish?
Oh, start. English, nobody's gonna.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll say it in English first. Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Good evening, everyone. I am Alexis John, the Interim Director of Neighborhood Improvement Services. And before we get started, I'd like to share that interpretation will be taking place in the back corner. So if you hear folks talking back there, they're not on a cell phone, they are interpreting. And I will have Murado come and say that in Spanish.
Hola, muy buenas tardes, bienvenidos al Ayuntamiento. Murtado les saluda. Vamos a estar ofreciendo servicios de interpretación. Si prefieren escuchar en español la reunión, se acercan. Estamos con Claudia en la parte de atrás donde están las fotos. Muchas gracias.
It is an absolute honor to welcome you all to this year's Women's Forum in celebration of Women's History Month, hosted by our Neighborhood Improvement Services Department Human Relations Division and ISLA. Our theme this year is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations. This theme is one that speaks to incredible power of collective progress. Throughout history, women have been trailblazers, mentors, and catalysts for change, paving the way for future generations through education, advocacy, and leadership. Women have led movements, broken barriers, and created avenues for those coming behind them to do the same. They have shaped our world and continue to drive progress with unwavering strength and resilience. Today, we come together not only to honor those who came before us, but also to empower one another as we continue to shape a future where every woman's voice is heard, valued, and uplifted. This forum is a space for learning, collaboration, and inspiration. It is a reminder that when women support and educate each other, we create a lasting impact, one that transcends generations. As we come together, we also want to reflect on and honor the women who have been recognized in past Women Forums events. These women are leaders, innovators, change makers, whose contributions to our community have left a lasting mark. From educators and entrepreneurs to advocates and public servants, these women exemplify the spirit of resilience, determination, and empowerment. Their work continues to inspire future generations, and we remain deeply grateful for the path they have already forged. Thank you for being here, for sharing your wisdom, and for your commitment to progress. Together, we move forward. Together we inspire, and together we change the world. So let's get started. And at this time, I'd like to welcome ISLA, our co-host, to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. ISLA, Immersion for Spanish Language Acquisition, has been a support system in education for Spanish-speaking families in Durham, bridging cultural divides and creating pathways to succeed through language education and cultural immersion. As a community-led organization, we believe in the power of language to transform lives and build stronger communities. ISLA empowers women and strengthens the Durham community through multiple interconnected approaches. By maintaining a staff that is 90% women, the organization creates a powerful platform for female leadership development, particularly for those with diverse backgrounds, identities, and migration experience, who might otherwise face limited professional opportunities. Almost all of our teachers and assistants self-identify as a woman. The same for our board of directors, our leadership team, and one of the co-executive directors.
ISLA's commitment to women advancement extends beyond the organization itself. As these leaders become change makers in the broader community, enhancing Durham's collective capacity to address local challenges. ISLA's work advances social equity by simultaneously removing barriers for Spanish-speaking families. Family households are also led by women, mamás, abuelas, tías, cuidadoras, hermanas. Creating professional pathways for women while fundamentally shifting community perceptions by recognizing the Spanish language skills and Hispanic cultural knowledge as valuable assets rather than obstacles. And now allow me to introduce the moderator for this evening, City of Durham's Communication Department Director, Beverly Thompson. Thank you.
Of this very esteemed panel. You'd think I would know to turn on the mic, but I appreciate that, you guys. In the spirit of this year's theme, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations, we take this moment to shine a light on a few women whose dedication, leadership, and passion have uplifted and empowered others. Our honorees have not only broken barriers, but they have also built bridges, mentoring the next generation, advocating for change, and creating opportunities that extend far beyond themselves. Their work reminds us that progress is not just about personal success, but about lifting others along the way. We honor their remarkable contributions, their resilience, and their unwavering commitment to making our communities stronger, more inclusive, and more inspiring for everyone. Their stories serve as a powerful reminder that when women lead, educate, and empower, entire generations benefit. Please join me in celebrating this year's honorees. First we have, Emily Chavez. Oh, she had a school board meeting. Okay, so she was unable to join us today. Okay. Are you gonna stand here to do it, or are you gonna do it down there? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, as you heard, Emily was unable to join us today, and she is a Durham School Board member, so that is exactly where she is tonight at a school board meeting. And she has over 15 years of experience in education. She is recognized for her efforts in furthering equitable education access while fostering vibrant educational spaces for students to learn, grow, and thrive. Let's give her a hand, even though she's not here. Okay, so next we have Michaela Russ. Would you come forward, please? Michaela studies political science at North Carolina Central University. Go Eagles. She has mentored children through the YMCA of the Triangle and is recognized for her work with the North Carolina Black Alliance, Inc. and Advance North Carolina, Inc. to protect the voting rights and fair elections of all people. Thank you. Next, we have Lanika Williams. Lanika, would you please come forward? Okay, Lanika is a senior political science student at North Carolina Central University as well. She's a strong advocate for leadership and justice and is passionate about making a meaningful impact in her field during her internship with the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People. Thank you. Next, we have Viviana Martinez. Is Viviana here? Yes, she is. Please come forward. Viviana is a physician at Duke Hospital, and she is also the founder and co-director of Latin 19, a multi-sector group addressing Hispanic health during the COVID-19 pandemic. She continues her work in advocating for health equity in vulnerable and marginalized populations. Thank you. Next, we have Tiffany Swoop. Tiffany, could you come forward, please? Tiffany is dedicated to community engagement in the Cornwallis community. She has worked diligently with the youth in Cornwallis under her own organization, Graced, Inc., where she offers youth mentorship, teaching life skills, and providing youth with the tools they need to pursue their dreams. Thank you, Tiffany. Next, we have Sarita Hill. Sarita here? Yes, she is. Thank you, Sarita. She is the director of the Durham chapter of Step Up, where she works with those formerly incarcerated, helping provide them with job opportunities, housing, and more. Thank you, Sarita. Next, we have Jacqueline Hernandez. Jacqueline, please come forward. Jacqueline has over 20 years of experience supporting the Latino community through volunteer work. She has worked on various initiatives, including the COVID-19 outreach with La Semilla Church, and currently leads support groups for parents of neurodivergent children. Her work emphasizes the importance of community support and women's empowerment in driving positive change. Thank you, Jacqueline. Next, we have Janelle Henry. Is Janelle here? There she is. Janelle is the director of the Black Farmers Market, a space that provides opportunities for Black farmers and business owners to sell their products and goods. She also collaborates with various people in the community to provide support and help with food needs. Thank you, Janelle. And we have LaManda Pryor. LaManda Pryor is a community member and activist for those in Durham, especially PAC 4. If you have ever been to a PAC 4 meeting, you've seen LaManda. She has worked hard to make sure she engages as many community members through PAC meetings, as well as other programs like Empower Dance and Hayti Reborn. Thank you, LaManda. Unfortunately, two of our honorees could not be here, but we do want to recognize them and thank them for their contributions to making Durham a great place to live. We will definitely make sure they receive their certificates, and we honor their contributions to making Durham a more inclusive place to live, work, and play. Thank you. Let's give all of these individuals a round of applause. Okay, so now it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. 5 remarkable women who embody the spirit of education, empowerment, and leadership. I was supposed to introduce the Thomas Mentor Academy, Leadership Academy cadets who we're going to introduce escort you up, but they've already done that, and let's give them a round of applause for being the wonderful young men that they are. So let me introduce our wonderful panelists. Linda Shropshire. Linda has spent decades as a collector and advocate for the arts. She serves on the Board of Trustees for the North Carolina Museum of Art, and she's a member of the Black Trustee Alliance and is the owner and founder of LOS Gallery here right across the street in Durham. Linda, thank you so much for being with us today. Okay. Next, we have Vanity Reed Detterville. Right? Vanity serves as a co-director of Project FAM and the director of gender advocacy resources and support services at the LGBTQ Center of Durham. She is also actively involved in the restorative justice cooperative known as Transforming Teaching College, where she assists in the development and facilitation of restorative dialogue, equity-based workshops, and anti-racist training materials. Vanity, thank you so much for being with us. Next, we have Nida Allam. And I know you probably know who Nida Allam is, but I'm going to tell you, she was sworn in as the Durham Board of County Commissioners, sworn onto the Durham Board County of Commissioners on December 7, 2020, becoming the first Muslim woman ever elected to public office in the state of North Carolina. Prior to being elected, she served as chair of the Durham Mayor's Council for Women. And you probably know she is now the chair of the Board of Commissioners. She is a proud resident of Durham, where she resides with her husband, 2 children, and her dog, Nala. Thank you for being with us. Next, we have Maya Anderson. Maya is the founder of Mobilizing African American Mothers Through Empowerment, which is a nonprofit organization that empowers Black, Indigenous, and other birthing people of color to navigate health systems, offering resources and support for holistic maternal health and wellness. Maya is committed to decreasing the health disparities among pregnant people of color, creating access to economic advancements, and building sustainable communities. Maya, thank you for being with us. Next, we have Mercedes McCurley. Mercedes developed a love of learning from a very early age. Her father instilled in her a desire to acquire knowledge just for knowledge's sake. She has worked with Durham Public Schools since 2005 and now serves as a DPS parent liaison. Mercedes is a true optimist, right? And a champion of public education. Mercedes, thank you for being with us. And you will notice in your program that there was another panelist, Shanika Ballman. She was unable to join us tonight. But please take a moment to read her description. Okay? So we do have some prepared questions, but we'd love for you to engage our panelists with any questions that you have. You may do so by using your phone to scan the QR code located on the back cover of your program booklet. Your questions will be presented to our panelists for response as time permits. Okay? All right, so let's get started. You ready?
Ready.
Okay, all right. So just a reminder to push the button to everybody when you get ready to speak so that you can be heard. Okay, so our first question for our panelists is, what inspired you to pursue the path that you're on today? So we'll get started with Linda.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say thank you to you, Beverly. Thank you for this wonderful staff. Thank you for those young men, those young kings who escorted us here, for the distinguished panel that I get to join here, and for all of you honorees. You are the real heroes. Thank you so much. So what inspired me for this path? You know, often circumstances are the catalyst for change. It just so happened in 2020, we were in a pandemic. I was working for a Fortune 100 company who decided they were going to restructure. They gave me an opportunity for an early retirement. I decided it would be a great idea while I'm sitting at home washing food that I could get an MBA online at UNC Chapel Hill. And so all of those circumstances led me to this place where I am now. Ultimately, going through the program, coming up with an idea for an art gallery, theoretically, and then 3/4 through the program, finding a space, and then the rest is history.
Wow, great. Thank you. Would you like to answer that question as well?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Beverly, for the question. Thank you to the City of Durham Human Relations Division and the Neighborhood Improvement for welcoming me on this panel. And also, again, shout out to all the honorees and to the first two whose major is political science. Special shout out to you. That was my undergrad major. So I know what you're studying right now. It's a very interesting time. What inspired me to be on the path that I'm on today? Well, I am a Carolina girl through and through. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I've lived here in North Carolina since the height of the pandemic in 2020. And I have been working at the LGBTQ Center of Durham ever since. Much of my work, I believe, is public health centered. I'm currently at UNC Chapel Hill for my MPH. So I definitely understand the online school experience right now, and we are experiencing an assault on public health in this country. I think we are seeing the ramifications of that assault through many different aspects of society right now, be it access to care, be it access, period. I think there's an assault on public health, and I think that we have a duty, I have a duty as a Black queer person to make sure that I can use my lived experience to help improve the quality of life for those with similar experiences.
All right, thank you. Nida.
I want to echo the thanks to the city, Beverly, and the ILS for organizing, and then ISLA for organizing this event. Thank you so much. For me, I think similar to my fellow panelists, and what I think
women of color especially feel is that we're usually drawn to service and drawn to work not by choice, it's by necessity. And that's what happened with me when I was in my final year of undergrad at NC State. I lost my dear friends Dia Barakat, Yusra Abu Salha, and Razan Abu Salha in the Chapel Hill shooting, where they were murdered by their neighbor in a hate crime because they were Muslim. And it was that tragedy that really led me to look at what was the representation of Muslims, of immigrants in our political sphere, because we saw that the way that our elected officials, the media was talking about their killing it was a parking dispute. And it was minimizing the lives of 3 beautiful Muslim Americans who were proud to be Muslim Americans. And that's what drew me to start looking at organizing, start getting involved in campaigns, and then serving on the Mayor's Council for Women, to eventually running for office myself.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Also, thank you to everyone that put this together, the city, the Department of Equitable Community Engagement, as well as ISLA. What got me started on this journey is being a Black birthing person. I experienced deep discrimination through the process of being a parent, a working parent, and in the birthing space. I experienced neglect. And I noticed that over the years, other women in my community experienced that, as well as other communities of color who also experienced that, but didn't also know how to navigate the system. And in 2018, I became a doula. We are support people in the birthing space. We are facilitators. We help educate and empower our parents to navigate some of these very difficult challenges. And through COVID, we saw so many barriers, right? So your partner or your husband or your wife was not able to be in the room with you while giving birth. You could not advocate for yourself without being deemed difficult. If you did not speak English, you weren't getting full transparency of the level of care for you to make an informed decision. And in that time, I had gave birth again, and I decided to remove myself from the healthcare system and to birth with midwives in a community birthing center. And the experience was so empowering. It felt like home, it felt like community. I could eat, I could move, my children could be around me while I was giving birth. And I just knew that there was something structurally wrong with how people were giving birth in this country. And the results of this transformation is understanding how many women are silently dying in the US, but also in North Carolina and also in Durham. And so that put a fire in me to bring other women in the room. In 2019, we trained 20 Black and brown doulas from across the Triangle to service their community. And we have just been moving and marching ever since to make sure that we are sheltering and nurturing through each other, through birth and beyond, because if we're not taking care of our parents, our children are going to go into the school system stressed out and depressed, and we have to start prioritizing parents and families more.
All right, thank you. Very powerful statement there. Mercedes.
Thank you. It's really an honor to be sitting here with all of you. I'm going to go back to childhood, because I feel really privileged, not because we had money, not because we had wealth, but because I had access to education. I'm from Colombia, and at the point when I was coming up in Colombia, there was a really strong middle class. And being part of that middle class, I had access to education, to really, really good education. So although the complexity of our life, the complexity of, dealing with racism within my own family, within my country, dealing with gender issues, dealing with, class. In Latin America, we always say that we're only classes, that we're not racist, but we're both. So as a child, then being able to go into school and then finding the roots of that, finding the roots of colonialism, finding the roots of why is it that I'm Catholic, all of that wondering that you find when you actually have access to good education. And then that is the transformation that happens for a young person, where we don't actually have to take what we're being fed by our society, but we can then use that education to start transforming, first ourselves. So as a child, first thing that you do is I had to straighten my hair, So from the time you were 7, you had to sit through hours. So because of school, by 17, I said no more. So we always talk about my hair, and I always go, I said, this hair has been there in this way since I was 17 years old. This is not it's not a trend, but it came from education. So that's my privilege, having had access to education.
All right, thank you. Thank you to all our panelists for those meaningful words. I really appreciate the experience that you've been through to bring you where you are today. Let's see, can you share a pivotal moment in your career or life that shaped who you are today? I am going to ask Maya to answer that.
I think that life-changing moment, in 2012, I lost my mother to breast cancer. And I was with her when she was transitioning. And I remember going back to work and trying to explain to my job, my mother just died. I'm gonna need time to return back to work. And they said, we'll give you 2 days.
Oh.
And I was like, culturally, that is inappropriate. And I don't know if this is legal, but let me pack my stuff up because this is not the right company for me to be at. And my mother's close friend, also nursing school peer, had a community center here called Healing with Care. And I remember going to Dr. Sharon Bynum and watching her create a public health fair that provided free services to the city of Durham, and it was 800 people outside. And I said, look at the work that this woman is doing to take care of people in Durham in need. And I didn't know what I was gonna do when I went there, but I just told her I'm exhausted and I just don't know what to do. And she gave me a desk and she said, figure it out. And I didn't know what that was going to be. I took all of my skills and gifts that I took from corporate and things that I learned over the years, applied what I could do to help support the organization, but I also soaked so many things up and just learned how structured, disorganized our healthcare system was. This was also a pivotal time where I think Republicans were really ramping up policy and trying to take policy funding away from the Ryan White Fund. And I'm watching her train and support community members who did not have the education, but she provided them with the knowledge and tools to take care of each other. And so one day I asked her, I said, why don't you have any programs for women and children? And she said, well, that's for you to do.
Wow.
And it didn't dawn on me that that would be my future. I was still trying to get back into corporate, and I just found that being in corporate was very difficult being a parent. The time that I needed to give to my children, the time that I need to nurture myself, the time that I want to be really good at what my job provided me, I realized that, if I needed to take off because a child was sick, that wasn't good enough, no matter how good I was, in these spaces and getting deals and really strengthening people's organizations. The fact that I needed to take time off to breastfeed on my lunch break was a problem. And so I decided to strip myself away from that. I did not know that I was going to be an advocate in this way, but that life-changing moment from being in care and learning from community and elders is really what catapulted me in this space.
Mm-hmm. So how hard is it for you to make that decision? A lot of times we all want to do what we think we need to do in life, and something happens and it takes us off our path. And it's a hard decision to make, but you have to be true to yourself, right? So what are your experience with that same kind of finding yourself and discovering your path? Linda?
So,
come to them.
I'm supposed to be on this one. So there's so many discoveries as women. I sit at the intersection that many of you do. I am a small business owner of an art gallery, which is a male and majority-dominated field. I am mother to two 20-something daughters. I am a daughter to two octogenarian parents, one of whom has dementia. I am an auntie, I'm a community member, and so the pivots are rampant. There's always something different and something to do. But I think some of my best advice came, well, it wasn't even really advice, but it was a moment in my 20s when I had one of my first professional jobs. And my job was dealing with numbers. And I made a mistake by 2 zeros on a big report. And I remember having to go in to my boss, who was the executive director at the time, to tell him, excuse me, I've really screwed up. And so I went in, humbled, knowing that I had to confess, and he asked 2 questions. The first was, is anybody dead? And the second was, is anybody dying? To which I said, no. And then he said, then we can get through it. And those words ring through. I mean, I'm way beyond that point, but those words ring through to me. But it was a pivotal point because it gave me the freedom to be able to make a mistake. And I think so often we are working as women, we are in these situations where we've got to be perfect, we got to do it right. And so early in my 20s, I learned that if nobody's dead and nobody's dying, that it's okay. And so I use that not only for myself, but I also use it for people who work with me, who come to me with mistakes. Then it's the shift, and it's like, okay, it's not that bad. And that was a pivotal moment for me, and it freed me to do all the things that I do now because I'm not afraid of making a mistake.
I love that story. That's awesome. So, do you have any stories similar to that? Vanity? Yeah.
Pivotal moments.
Nida?
Pivotal moments.
It's okay. We got another question for you.
No. I do. I was, battling internally how truthful I would be with my answer about this. One of the things that you mentioned within my bio is the collective that I'm a part of called the Transformative Teaching Collective. And we're a group of several facilitators that live across the South. We were founded in Charleston, South Carolina, but we now span North Carolina, New Orleans, Louisiana, as well as Charleston. And we were born in response to a specific type of hate and extremism. I had the unfortunate pleasure in 2015 being right down the street, a block away, as Dylan Roof was massacring 9 people in Emmanuel AME Church. And I have a friend whose mother was among the 9 that were taken that night. I've seen white extremism, I think, very personally. I've seen several responses to it. And I have seen the impacts of it in its most violent forms. It's no stranger to the city of Charleston, which they like to dub the Holy City. And it has played a pivotal role in shaping how I inform much of my work with an anti-racist perspective. What does it mean to be a multicultural space? What does it mean to work moving away from monoculturalism? What does it mean to have equity, right? All things that are under attack and under assault right now, but all things that are intersectional with public health and a person's ability to self-actualize. And so I think my personal experiences and seeing my own community be resilient in the face of extremism are some of the most critical, pivotal roles that have shaped my career.
All right, thank you. Nida, I think you probably touched on what impacted your life, the pivotal moment that impacted your life in your introduction. But if you'd like to expand on that, that would be fine.
I think I covered it. For the sake of time, I want to make sure that everyone has opportunity to answer, so I won't repeat myself.
Okay, I think Mercedes can answer that question next.
I mean, there are so many points in life, as I believe as women, where we had to stop, breathe, take that moment and make decisions. Having our children is one of those big moments where we have to make the decision of what we're going to do and what we're going to pursue in our professional, personal life. But there was a moment when my son started school. I actually went to school for science. I was studying chemistry. There was that love for science, and that was going to be my career. And then I found, again, the truth about the industry here. I was at Pepsi-Cola bottling company many years ago, so I'm hoping that things have changed. And this is anecdotal in the sense that I was 25 years old. I was the lab technician. I was walking in at 6:30 in the morning to do titration. Back then, we were doing them by hand. And so I would be there, and my heart rate was just super fast. And so I started getting concerned because it's like, I'm 25 years old, I'm in good health. Why is my heart rate accelerating when I'm just standing still? So I mentioned it to my supervisor, and he said, oh, maybe we have a CO2 leak. Let's check it out. So 300 parts per million later, when he actually used the machine to calculate, we found out that there was a CO2 leak. And it was their response about the situation that made me completely leave the industry, because their response was, it's going to take too much money to fix it. And so as I went in to do research, and I would talk to them about maybe if there was a pregnant woman. They were depleting us from oxygen. That's why my heart rate would be that accelerated in those moments. So I tried to organize. That was my first attempt to organize the employees. But it was a lot. I had a child. I was a mother. Not a lot of money to really pursue a corporation. So that is when I decided to go into education and support my children in their journey. So that was kind of one of the many points that influenced my path.
Great, thank you for that story, thank you. So let's go down a different path. So how can women encourage others to pursue education and leadership roles? And I think we'll start with Nida this time.
One of my favorite articles and stories, I think it was Fox News did a story on this back in Obama's first presidential term. And I always go back to that because it inspires me and reminds me of women needing to uplift each other in these spaces, especially in these realms where it's predominantly men who take up leadership roles and positions, that in the Obama administration, women noticed in his staff that oftentimes they would share an idea or a solution and it would get dismissed, but then a man would say the same idea and it was celebrated as what a marvelous thing to think of. So the female staffers of the Obama administration started doing this thing where they came together and they organized and they said, when we're in meetings, let's elevate each other's ideas. So if somebody says an idea, Maya has a brilliant idea, she shares it, Mercedes repeats it and says, Maya had a great idea when she shared that we should have this solution. and elevating each other in those spaces, because it reminds and it broke down barriers of making sure that other women's voices were heard and making sure that it was repeated. And I like to, when I saw that article, I was like, this sounds so simple. And it's sad that women have to do it.
It really is.
But it's amazing that, like, you know, to see that type of camaraderie with each other. And I hope that we can implement something like that in all spaces, because oftentimes, you know, we're in these male-dominated industries, we're taught to believe that we're in competition, that women are in competition with each other, that there's only one seat, and this happens with people of color, all minorities, that there's one seat for y'all, which is not true. There's plenty of seats, and we can take up multiple seats, that we shouldn't be in competition. Me and Maya are not in competition with each other. We should be advocating with each other for there to be multiple seats for us.
Amen. Samaya, what do you think about that?
I totally agree. I think we need more women to step in the role of mentors. I still have the same mentor I had in college almost 20-something years ago. And she has helped me navigate just, you know, the corporate environment as a single person, then as a mother. At any point in time, she needed some additional support because her staff wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. She would find some way to contract me to come in and, you know, clean up behind them. But what it did, it allowed me to be in a lot of different spaces, to learn a lot of different skills. And I took what she taught me to now pass it on to other young women and to open the door. And it goes back to what Nida was talking about, is that, you know, there's room for all of us to be there, and we might have different approaches to getting there, but we have to truly start making a way in which, if these environments do not have enough representation of us, then we hold them accountable, or sometimes we just let people know, it's a me, you need to come with me, we're not gonna talk about it, but you come sit at this table, you know? And so we have to advocate for each other. We have to push these doors down together, and we also have to make sure that we're continuing that legacy, so that way that door stays open. And I find so many young women who want mentorship and guidance, but because I think historically we've been taught to be in competition with each other, that it is difficult for people to understand how to pass the torch. Right. Passing the torch does not mean that your light is out. It means that we're creating more lights to shine in the process of that. And I think that we just have to continue as a collective. If we want to beat this white supremacy structure, that we have to start moving more as a collective together. And that's gonna start with all of us at the table.
I agree, I agree. Mercedes. Turn on your mic, please.
I think I have it. I'm in complete agreement. So one of the things that I learned from my mom is that, although, you know, like I said, all of our complexities, my mom loved women. She was always, it didn't matter about, it wasn't just women in her group, in her class. My mom just loved women. So I was always exposed to women's lives in all kinds of, you know, in Colombia, I know I talk a lot about Colombia, but it is a beautiful place. And women are strong, they're smart, they're powerful, they hold a lot for us. And so my mom was able to just navigate the world of women in different spaces. And since I was little, I saw that model. And so having relationships with women is pivotal for me. It's so important for us to be in relationship with each other. It is the only way that we're gonna be able to make changes. I do believe that we are the ones that can transform this world. And so one of the things that I always think when I travel is, how are women doing it? I go with curiosity. I don't go to find the similarities, but I go to look for the differences. How are women doing it in that space? And then I always use that into my role right now.
Great, thank you. So I do have some other questions here, and I want to make sure I get to them. So I will go to another question. Linda, what obstacles have you faced in your field, and how have you overcome them?
Well, as a new business owner, there are tons of obstacles, but I would say the one that's most relevant to me right now is funding for your ideas and for your enterprise. I don't think I knew how complicated it was for a person to start a new business where you need resources to create and to thrive, but the system basically says, we want to see how much money you have made before we give you money. And it's this sort of vicious cycle, and I didn't realize how vicious it was until I was in it. And so what I have done, I have grown some resiliency in this. I've learned how to be creative, even more creative than I thought I could be. And the thing that I would say to anybody with this sort of entrepreneurial spirit who wants to start something, don't give up. Fight for it as if your life depends on it. Because a no is not always no. Sometimes it's just not now, right? And so I tell this story a lot. I want to be second on a lot of lists, right? So, okay, if you don't have a no for me now, I'll be second when the yeses come around. So just don't give up.
Great message. Vanity.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? All right, I want to make sure because I got in trouble a little bit earlier. Obstacles I face in my field, I couldn't stress the current times we're in more enough. I work for the LGBTQ Center of Durham. It has probably been the best place in my life that I have worked at 31 years old. They do an incredible job of filling in gaps for this community where larger health systems just can't meet everybody. And one of the challenges that we're experiencing right now in our field are contracts, work being paused, opportunities being reneged, offers being rescinded. We're starting to hear language like our center is a high-risk partner, that kind of verbiage that's being used to talk about a community center that's been trying to do their best to fill in gaps, that isn't operating with a huge budget or a huge staff. And I think coalition work right now is more important than ever, partnering organization to organization, movement to movement, community to community. I think as a Black person, as a trans person, as a queer person from the South, making it work with your village is no new concept to me, but it just makes this work a little bit more difficult. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, again, how these top-down decisions impact what we're doing day to day right now.
Nida.
I think, unfortunately, like in this country that we live in, it's a country of opportunity, but it's also a country that looks at us and people who look like us as others, as folks who shouldn't be in leadership. So some of the challenges I've faced has been just my identity. I first ran for office and won when I was only 26 years old. And oftentimes I was told when I first ran to wait my turn. And that's something that young people get told often, but especially women get told more often. And then when I was running, also because I was the first Muslim woman, there was no playbook for me to run on of like how has another Muslim woman run in the South. And there would be people at the polls who would say things about my hijab, make comments about my religion. And it deterred me at points. I definitely felt like, I didn't have the strength to move forward. But I remembered, and it may sound cliche, but my parents were a huge reason that I was able to continue pushing forward is because my mom always would sit with me and she would tell me, like, Nida, when you have kids, because when I was 25 running at the time, she was like, when you have kids, do you want your kids to be able to see someone that looks like us in office? And that is what really pushed me to keep going, because I saw my mom in leadership positions at our mosque, and I saw her in other leadership spaces and all the Muslim women I was around. And I know that if they hadn't taken that step, I wouldn't have been able to even think about running for office. And I want to now leave. I have a daughter who's 2.5 years old. I want to leave a path where she's able to. I joke and say that I want her to be president, and my husband's like, please do not force our kids down a path. He's like, let them choose their own path. And I'm like, yeah, the path will be president. But I want her to be able to see herself in that role, that's even an option for her.
Great, thank you. Maya?
I think the biggest obstacles that I've dealt with founding a community-based organization built by Black and brown people is that they love to put our names in the papers with collaborations and in the presentations, but the dollars don't match with the work. And when it's time to address the real elephant in the room, everybody wants to sweep it up under the rug. And I have seen many members, not including myself, be left from some very important conversations, to be isolated in the equation of how we're going to collectively work to resolve this issue for many years, but then be propped up in a position to say, well, you need to have a partnership with this group because that's how we'll fund you. And these institutions can't fix the problem because structurally it's been built for 400 years. And we have to, if we say that we are for community and we love community, we have to invest in community in a way with no barriers, right? You can't gatekeep the resources from community to be able to solve their own problems because you all created the institution and the mess that got us here in the first place. And so what I've seen over the years with this work is that when we say that we are from community and we have created a model that creates access for Black and brown women, that we are navigating each other and feeding each other, clothing each other, we are nurturing and loving up on each other, that is not enough, even though we have the data, even though we have the results, even though that we are published. It's the constant judgment and bias in place a lot of times that makes it very difficult. And I'm keep trying to remind people, you are playing with people's lives. These are mothers, right? You want to talk about decreasing outcomes. The people who are the service providers trying to prevent this work need to be paid equitably. You know, you can't keep asking us to volunteer all the time, right? Those days are over, long and gone. You know, whether forced by choice, no one should be asked to volunteer. We're spending almost 18 to 36 hours with someone in the room to give birth, and we can't even get a proper donation to maintain what it is that we're doing. And so I have been faced with obstacles as a Black person running an organization. It should not have taken a Black man to die for us to get funding. That's how we got here, right? And with him dying and us being able to get funding to do the work, we've had to be very strategic in how we do our work to make sure that we're able to sustain. And so when we see systems and policies and administrations change, we go back to our roots. Like Vanity said, we've had to learn how to support and nurture each other in ways that we're able to be sustainable. And so I'm not only advocating for the community that I serve, but I'm advocating for the people that are doing the work. And a lot of times, Black and brown women are often overlooked as the helped versus the people who can solve the problem.
Wow, thanks for that. And just building off of that, Mercedes, I'm going to ask you, how do you maintain your resiliency when there's so many obstacles or people are saying no and there's no funding, or how do you do that?
First of all, I don't think I have a choice. You know, I don't think we have a choice as women. Humor, showing up in spaces, and, you know, a lot of self-strength. And I think we bring that from our ancestors. We bring that from our mothers, from our grandmothers, from our great-grandmothers. So it is. So one of the things that I remember when I graduated from college, I looked at some statistics about a Black Latina woman, was making at that point 56.5 cents to the dollar. And then I looked at that data last year, and we're up to 57.5 cents to the dollar. So I think that's it is. It was almost like that. It was my reality.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes knowing that that is the reality gives us some strength, not to give up, because giving up is not an option. Mm-hmm. But continuing to fight to change it is the only option that I have.
Right. So Linda, building on that even more, I know as a small business owner, you just said you have challenges sometimes with capital. How do you overcome that? How do you stay resilient and confident?
So I have, every year I pick a word for myself, and the word for this year is modulation. It's a word that is often used when you think about sound.
Right.
You can lower your voice, or you can heighten your voice. And so oftentimes in situations that I've been faced with in the past, I've done it all full throttle. And what I have come to understand is everything can't be done at full throttle, that we have to modulate our energy. And we also have to decide what and who deserves our energy. And there's certain things and people that don't. And what I've come to learn in this season of my life is that when you can modulate and bring your energy down when it is not necessary or deserving, you reserve it for something that's more important. So modulation is my new thing, and it's helped me to relax. When I haven't been able to do that before, there are times when I just say, I'm gonna chill. It's not worth my energy, right? So that's my new word, modulation.
Okay, everybody repeat the word, modulation, okay? Vanity, what is your word? Just kidding. You don't have to have a word.
I have
How do you
words.
How do you modulate?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's a good one. Modulation is good. I think this past year for me specifically has been very high energy, very fast-paced movement. I am also in like a step-parent's position while in grad school, so balancing work life is a very hard skill to manage, but when life throws the curveballs, honestly, it has been slowing down, breathing. I spoke with someone who was attending earlier about the importance of breath work, especially for those that don't have the ability to have certain types of care or therapy covered. How simple yet profound it can be in a moment when it feels like we are constantly being yelled at from the backgrounds of things we should be worried about. Taking a moment to breathe, taking a moment to meditate, to pray, to just be. I think we are caught up in the ebb and flow of producing, that we don't know what it looks like, or it feels bad to allow ourselves to not produce, to not do. And I am trying to carve out those moments more for myself of sitting with self. I think it's important. As I get older, I think I become more aware of an anxiousness that I've been high performing through much of my childhood. I think a lot of us as Black people came from families that did not want us to be pathologized, that did not want us to have to seek therapy, that wanted us to figure it out for ourselves. And as I get older, as we get older, we unlearn some of that compartmentalization, and we become more aware of what we're sitting with in the body. How is what everyday life throwing at me impacting how I'm feeling inside the body? I'm becoming more aware of it, and I'm trying to tend more to it. I think it's important.
Taking care of self. Nida, how hard is it to say no? As a woman, we struggle with that,
Yes,
right?
we do. And that's something I still struggle with. Oftentimes I'll be on the phone at like 10, 11 p.m. still for getting prepared for like a county commission meeting the day before, talking to folks, and my husband is like, please, Nida, put it away. Like, you need to sleep. Yep. So it's hard. It's something that I honestly am still working on myself. And I think, I know we're moving on question, but I just wanted to add to the previous question, if that's okay, of just, I think women are taught so often that like we're told we're too emotional. And I think it's important for young women to know that it's okay to be emotional. This is something that has taken me a while to learn, that it's okay to, like, if you need to cry, cry. Let it out, because if you keep that pent up inside of you, it's not going to help anyone. There have been many a days where I've just felt like I was about to crash and burn because I was holding myself like to not cry, but then I would just like take that moment, let it out, and you feel this release. And that's important. We are human beings. We were made to have emotions. If we didn't have emotions, then I would actually be concerned. So to make sure that, like Vanity said, to go to therapy, seek that comfort and support, have a friend group that you're able to vent to, feel comfortable in that space is so important.
Nida, really, do you have to choose where you cry? You have to be careful of where you cry and who sees you cry.
Unfortunately, society teaches us you have to be, but I think sometimes, like, again, all of the work that all of us are talking about is so personal.
Yeah.
And that emotion is what drives us. And I think it's necessary at times for people to see us, like, from the dais. I've cried on the dais before, and I think it's important for me, like, to be able to see other women show vulnerability, see men show that vulnerability, because it shows that they're coming to this space with care and love, and that emotion is pouring out.
Maya.
I think I have been learning a lot of lessons from Gen Z. I think they get a little bad rap every now and then, but this generation has been very clear with setting boundaries. And I think that's something, again, high performance, overachievers, coming from a generation of parents who were also in a state of just like constantly working, never slowing down, and just constantly just functioning in a way that's just not healthy for the body. I think over the past year, I've just been very comfortable with saying no. And I think as public servants too, like you said, it's the emotion, it's the passion. We want to do so many things for everybody. And I'm like, here I am preaching to my parents about how they have to nurture and take care of themselves after having a baby, but I'm not even taking care of myself to make sure we have something for them to come back to. And so just really sitting and being comfortable with saying no, learning how to delegate, and making sure that I am empowering others behind me to make decisions and to lead in ways that I don't have to be present. I think this has probably been the healthiest work year that I've had professionally, because we started out volunteer-based and I was still working 2 jobs before I got to the point that I could walk away. And sometimes it's being comfortable with walking away from things, right? Like, not all partnerships. A good partnership, really just assessing how much of my time is going to go into this to burn me out versus to lift me up and hold me in this space, to do this in a way that that not only exhausts me physically, but just like your brain power. I think with COVID, we sit so long in meetings, in Zooms, and our bodies are not moving. We're not going outside and getting vitamin D. We're forgetting to drink and eat in the process of that. And so just being more physically aware and mentally aware of how I am in this space, and being okay with saying no.
Mercedes.
Wow, for me, it's being around women. And right now, really remembering that I am at an age when I'm actually learning from the younger, the Gen Zs, spending time with younger women that are really working on understanding themselves better. They're the ones that are actually now, I love to be in this circle of women of all ages, different generations. And so I'm learning a lot, you know. I feel so privileged to have 2 daughters, and they're the ones that I go to now to get advice. They're the ones that tell me, you know, you need to slow down, you need to learn to say no. So having people around me that are my protectors, you know, and that I can actually give that power to support me so that I can do the work that I love, the work that I love to be with families, and actually having said no to the job that didn't bring me joy, and having found the work that brings me joy. Way. It's a way of resistance for me right now. So around, I'm going to say it again, it's been around women right now. Loving women is what is supporting me.
So we did get a few questions from our audience, and I want to turn to one question I think probably has impacted all of us as women. Any advice for those struggling with imposter syndrome? Have you ever been in a room and think that, Okay, Nida.
All the time. Even in this moment, especially as you were reading the descriptions of my fellow panelists and all of their accomplishments and the amazing things they've done and all of the people who have been honored and received recognition, I'm looking and reading and hearing all of these amazing things you've accomplished. I'm like, should I be here? Y'all should be up here. And I think it goes back to the first point I made, that like we as society have trained women to believe that there's only one seat for us. And that's just ingrained in each of us to have imposter syndrome of believing that we're not worth having a space at the table. We're not worth leadership roles. But really, look how much diverse talent and experience there is in this room alone. Like, if we were running this country, this world, everyone would be taken care of, probably. It's
I agree.
And it's because all of us have talent and experience that makes us worthy of leadership positions.
Anyone else here? Linda?
So this is something that, so I think we all suffer from imposter syndrome at some point or another in our lives, but more recently, I heard something, I think Octavia Butler was the writer who said this, but that when I walk into the room, I don't ever walk alone. I have ancestors all around me, my grandmothers, my aunts who are on the other side, all of the people who loved me, even if they didn't know me. I walk into the room with all of them. And I don't know, somehow that gives me a little more courage and a little more strength, because I do imagine that I'm not alone. So.
Powerful. Vanity?
I love that you mentioned Octavia Butler. I'm bouncing back and forth between 3 books of hers right now, one of which is entitled Kindred, which was based off of a series that teleports a Black woman back to the time and place, the plantation that her ancestors were enslaved on, several hundred years in the past. And I think the way that she captures Black experience in this sci-fi aspect is, it's Afrofuturism, and it makes us feel like we should embrace the otherness, right, that we are born with. I definitely experience imposter syndrome. I think it's driven me to try to educate myself, to sharpen my words, to, you know, coming from the South, present myself as well as I could. But there are still going to be those moments when you were not intentionally thought about in the space, and you still have to forge a path for yourself. So I think considering our lives and our identity as futurism is how we combat that imposter syndrome. We are the future.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else care to answer that question?
I just want to highlight that you're all experts in your own craft, and though you may not be leading or the loudest voice in the room, sometimes it's good to be the fly on the wall, because that gives you the opportunity to really hear and see what's going on and to absorb what is happening, so that way you can make an informed decision on how you're going to show up. Sometimes you don't need to be the loudest. And knowing when to be the loudest is when you pick the opportunity to shine. Because again, as women of color, as people of color, a lot of these spaces are not the safest spaces to be in. So we have to know when that moment is ideal to spread your wings, and when sometimes it's okay to rest. So that way they don't overwork you in the process of your gifts, because they know that you are capable of a million wonderful things, and they will abuse you and run you down in the process of that. And so I would say, don't go into a room, even though we've all feel it, right? We all have this moment where we feel like we're not the brightest or we're not the most knowledgeable, but you would be surprised once they start talking and once they start putting up them presentations that they absolutely know nothing. and just walk away knowing that you could have either wasted your time trying to show them how smart you are, or save your time and the expense of your mental health and walk away from something.
Well said. So we are running out of time, but I do want to make sure I ask each of you, for the people in the audience and the people watching, if you could leave them with one piece of advice about how to achieve, how to be the best, your best self, what would you recommend to them? Linda, we'll start with you.
So when I think about what I would leave in my legacy, I liken my life and what I think all of our lives should be to a garden and not a pie, right? We've often been told that we are competing for a slice of the pie, American pie. And I think if we change the paradigm and we went from eating from a pie to eating from a garden, we would pick the fruit, we would eat the fruit, we would throw the seeds back into the ground, and generations of people will continue to eat. So that is my legacy, to create gardens and eat from gardens instead of pies.
All right. Wish I'd said that. Very poetic. Thank you. Vanity.
If I could leave any bit of advice, it would be to continue to be willing to be inspired. And even though many of us have achieved a level of being referred to as a subject matter expert, not being afraid to look to the youth to be put on to something that we didn't think we had together. There's an 11 and a 14-year-old at home, and the profound conversations that we have, I think, are the fire that keep me going and doing what I believe is important. So as old as we get, never be unwilling to continue learning, even if you feel like it's from someone that doesn't have the world figured out.
Okay, thank you. Nida?
I think the legacy I'd want to leave for the future generations, especially my daughter and my son, not going to forget about him, but especially my daughter, is that there isn't a single playbook for you to follow, and that you can build your own playbook. Like for me, I was the first Muslim woman, but also then I've had 2 children now while in office, been pregnant twice while in office, gave birth, and like that's something that people look at, like why women shouldn't be starting families, you should be at home taking care of your kids. But that's not true. Because oftentimes, again, as I mentioned, women go into these spaces of leadership and advocacy out of necessity and out of care and love, and I'm advocating for my children and the children, like my children, all children. And I think the one piece of advice I would leave young folks with, in addition to that, is please, I'm going to sound like your mother, but social media is so toxic. I cannot say how my mental health has been saved. From during my campaigns, it would just get so nasty on social media that I actually deactivated my Facebook, and I never reactivated. It's been like 4 years now, and I haven't been on Facebook, and like, it's amazing. And going back to what Linda said earlier of her boss had asked her, did someone die? And that's something I kind of ask myself now when I like hear whispers of like, oh, there's this rumor floating around about you, Nida, or like somebody saying this about you. I've started to, ever since I came off of social media, I've realized it's just a bubble, a circle of people that are saying these things. And so instead of, has anyone died, I always ask myself, is it in a newspaper? Is it on a news article somewhere? Is a reporter talking about it? If not, then I don't need to stress about it, because it's not, it's within this bubble of just rumors, and it's not something that's impacting me. And I think that's so important to just take that step back and look at how real is this problem that we in our mind are blowing up into much larger than it really is.
Right. Yes. Maya.
What I would love to leave is for everyone to stay dreaming and dream big. As a child, I did not fit in the traditional construct. I always felt comfortable. Would get in trouble or marks for talking too much in the classroom. Maybe I wasn't the best student at that point in time, but if you asked me to memorize something, and I could tell you from top to bottom exactly what it was. And I struggled a bit with my identity, leaving home and going to college, constantly trying to find myself, constantly trying to figure out where I fit in. You know, we were taught you go to school, you get a job, and everything is just supposed to fall in place. And that didn't happen for me. I graduated in the 2008 recession. It was such a disaster as a new college grad, then becoming a parent. And so I no longer fit in that box and model of what society had so-called constructed for me. And every year I sit down and I dream out all the things that I want to experience, that I aspire to do, what I want my family to do. Even with my organization, would have never thought that we would be where we are right now. I think it was with some of the ARPA funding a few years ago that we received, though we didn't get the amount that we wanted, it allowed us to see and imagine a communal space in which Black and brown women and their families and their babies can come and get access to resources and food. And now we're in 8 counties across North Carolina.
Wow.
And so dreaming big is now creating that legacy for future generations to be able to get the education, the resources, and the support they need. And so I think that when we stop limiting ourselves and thinking that we have to fit into this idealism of what it is to be an American, I think so many more of us will be healthy and thriving, and just really getting back to holding community together.
Wonderful. All right, Mercedes.
So listen to women would be my go to more panels where women are the ones, their voices are there. But for me, really, is center the children. If we're talking about education, I think we need to center children in our life. We all talk about transformation, and we have been raised in a society that follows white supremacy, where capitalism is the one leading what we're doing, what we're dreaming, how we're dreaming it, what we need to have, what we can survive with, what is it that we actually need as human beings. So our humanity. So I always, anytime I spend time with kids outside, not my own, because my own, they're grown, or my grandchildren, I think there's a different relationship when you are with your own children. But when you are actually spend time with other kids and can see through their eyes that curiosity around the world, when you see a child building something with mud and a house, and I think about communities that actually do build their homes with mud, they don't have to go out there and buy supplies to build a home. Right now we're having a housing crisis in the United States, here in Durham, and we cannot afford to buy wood to build houses. Mm-hmm. But in North Carolina, you can actually build your houses out of cob. And cob is free. Straw is very cheap. So how can we help children really start dreaming a different world? But we need to be around them to actually do that and help them through those dreams.
All right, powerful statements. Nida, you wanted to add something else, I believe?
Yes, sorry, this is what happens when you have an elected official on a panel. I just wanted to add that don't wait for someone to give you a seat at the table. Don't wait for someone to tell you it's your turn. You have to step up and take it, because that's really the only way you will get it. See, not the only way. You know, obviously, we have women that are supporting each other and we're pushing to open up more seats. But if you see an opportunity that you want, don't let anyone tell you to wait your turn. Because your turn is the moment that you feel ready, the moment that you have the support system in place to take that seat.
Love it. Yes. And often it's men telling us to wait our turn, right? So you've heard it here. Do your thing, okay? Pull up a seat and sit at that table, all right? So I want to thank our wonderful panelists here. Every year I learn something, and I think, you know, young people, I don't know what I learn something every year. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity to get to do this. So let's take a moment to applaud our panelists and thank them for their insights and experiences. Now I'd like to turn it back over to ISLA for closing remarks.
Hello. On behalf of ISLA, I want to express my gratitude to each of you, to our speakers, honorees, panelists, and attendees, for making this event an inspiring and meaningful experience. Today, we have shared stories, gained insights, and reinforced the importance of moving forward together, lifting one another up, educating future generations, and creating lasting changes in our community. Special thanks goes to the panelists, the honorees, to the cadets of the Thomas Mentor Leadership Academy, our sign language interpreters, Mary Beth Brown and Ryan Pinon, and to Language Service Solutions. Thank you for your time, your voices, and your commitment to progress. Together, we will continue to educate, inspire, and empower generations to come. Safe travels, and we look forward to seeing you again next year. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Everyone have a wonderful evening and be safe.